Tonight, we're kicking off a year-long celebration of journalism excellence. WUSA 9 is marking 75 years, 3 generations, 7 decades of inspiring change, making an impact, and telling your stories.
Yeah, right now we want to turn the mic over to some WUSA 9 legends who played a critical role here at WUSA 9 and in the community.
Joining us back here on the anchor desk are former WUSA 9 anchors Maureen Bunyan and Derek McGinty. Maureen, of course, was the lead co-anchor here at WUSA 9 for 22 years, from 1973 to 1995. And for 8 years, Derek co-anchored the 6, the 11, and then the 7 by himself for a time from 2003 to 2015.
Y'all were together for a bit.
We were together for a little bit, too. We had a great time.
All right, so Maureen, you started back in 1973. The station was WTOP at the time.
Yes.
And, it's hard to fathom, but Washington, D.C. had this perception of like a small town. And some of your reporting helped change that image just a bit, huh?
Well, I think a lot of reporting helped change. The Washington Post, of course, was the be-all and end-all of journalism, especially at that time because that was the days of Watergate. And what happened here in Washington, as well as in many other communities, the late 60s and early 70s was the time when TV stations and newspapers, but very much television stations, started recruiting minorities and women. And with the influx of minorities and women, there came a change in the way stories were told. Because many of us brought a different way of looking at the community. Also, we had contacts within the community and relationships in the community that helped us to understand what was happening to people of color and to women. So it was very, very exciting. And in the 60s, during the civil rights movement, much of the coverage, I'd say almost all the coverage of broadcasters in minority communities was there's a demonstration, there's a protest, et cetera, et cetera. And in the 70s, I think we got more involved in understanding what the social problems were, what some of the complaints were that had obviously real legitimacy to them, and also African American people were getting really involved in politics and in community associations and groups. I mentioned earlier about the passage of home rule legislation. I don't think home rule legislation would have passed in 1973 if it hadn't been for the Congressional Black Caucus and the pressure that it put on Congress. And the Congressional Black Caucus was then just developing as a major force in politics. So it was a time of a lot of change.
I want to say thank you here publicly, Maureen, because if it had not been for you and so many others like you, the 3 of us would not be here today. And I think it's important to mention.
Derek would have been here because he's kind of old.
At least I'm only kind of. I'll take that.
But I think it's important to note for people who may be watching and they take for granted that they see the 2 of us together. They've seen the 2 of us together. They've seen newsrooms change. That Maureen was part of this real first wave of African American journalists who dispatched across the country after the Kerner Report in '68.
Exactly.
And you came to newsrooms like this one and you changed the face and everything about how we cover news. And so much has changed now, and we are grateful for what you had to deal with, how difficult it was for you to do what you had to do, and for ensuring that while you were one of the first, that you weren't the last.
We certainly tried to do that, both of those things. And I think, the folks at my age and experience really are proud of you and you. Derek, so.
What did I do to get on the bad side?
We always pick on him.
What did I do?
But we're so proud because we feel you are our legacy. And it's inspiring to watch you and know that you're in charge. You have something to say.
No pressure, huh?
Well, you look like you're in charge. But you do. You really have an impact on the communities. And Derek knows this. Derek understands how important certainly people of color have been in representing our communities and in bringing our issues to the forefront.
Yeah, you wanted to touch on that a bit more?
Sure. You know, I would just note that, you know, Washington, D.C. is unusual in how many, if I can say, black folks are on the air. When I travel around the country and go to different other cities,
Very different.
it is a real different world. I always like to think of D.C. being sort of a bubble, and I'm sort of grateful to be in it, to be honest with you. Yeah. So.
And you've seen a lot during your time and covered a lot.
We had some real adventures. And the funny thing about it to me is a lot of times you just end up at the center of a story by accident. Remember when there was the Discovery Building hostage situation? I was driving into work, just on a regular work day. I got a phone call from a friend who said, I think there's something happened at Discovery. So I pulled my car over. I'm on my way here. I am in Silver Spring. I walked down to Discovery. Something was happening. It was a hostage situation. So I'm live on a phone covering the story, and I ended up staying there for the whole rest of the night while craziness erupted all over the place, just because I just happened to get that phone call just when I was in position to pull over and stop and take a look.
And I think it underscores, though, to each of your points about this connection to community and how the news sometimes comes to us through those connections. And we have that added responsibility to be good reporters, but to be good listeners, so that when that information does come to us, we know what to do with it.
And some of it is some of it is planned, right? Like, remember, you and I were covering the Obama inauguration.
Yes, we
remember?
were.
And that's just because we were here, right? In D.C., you're going to cover that. But it was an incredible moment and an incredible evening. And yes, it was very cold.
It was very,
It was very, very cold. I just remember that.
Very,
May
very
I
cold.
add just a quick note? One of the things that's always fascinated me about Washington is the texture of the communities here. Not only the diversity of people in terms of race, et cetera, and ethnicity, and language, but also the diversity of status. We have the local community, we have the national community, we have the international community here. And watching all of these three communities interact is just fascinating. It doesn't happen in any other city in the United States. And it's a treasure. It's a real treasure to watch and to be part of it. So I agree with Derek completely. This is a special place for us.
And it is a treasure to be at this anchor desk with both of you tonight.
Absolutely.
Truly.
Absolutely.
Welcome home.
Well, thank you. Thank
We
you.
always say you can leave, but you can always come home. You can always come home.
And we are going to continue our conversation with Maureen and Derek live in just a few minutes at 6:30, streaming on WUSA 9+. There you can also watch our look back at 75 years of WUSA 9.